Your brain processes being ignored the same way it processes physical pain, same circuitry, same distress signals. When that silence comes unpredictably from someone you trust, it triggers a conditioning loop so powerful that one court classified a month of it as emotional abuse. The silent treatment is a psychological power move, and how it seizes control starts with your own biology working against you. Attachment needs run deep in the human mind. When someone close withdraws into silence, the brain's alarm system reacts as if basic safety is under threat. Social psychologists point to attachment theory. Those with anxious or avoidant styles are especially sensitive to being shut out. For them, silence from a loved one or authority figure doesn't just sting. It can trigger a cascade of worry, self-blame, and frantic attempts to reconnect. This isn't just emotional distress. Research shows the brain's social pain circuitry, including the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, lights up in fMRI scans during exclusion, overlapping with areas that process physical pain. But the silent treatment is more than a single blow. Its power comes from unpredictability. Behavioral science describes a conditioning loop. Silence is broken by brief, unpredictable acknowledgments. A text, a nod, a word, then resumes. This intermittent reinforcement is potent. Studies confirm that behaviors rewarded on a partial schedule are harder to extinguish than those on a predictable one. The person on the receiving end keeps trying, hoping the next attempt will break the silence. The cycle mimics patterns seen in addiction, where the rare payoff keeps the chase alive. A social psychologist explains, intermittent reinforcement is the glue that binds people to unhealthy dynamics. The uncertainty is what makes it so powerful. The brain, primed for connection, interprets unpredictable silence as a threat to belonging. This triggers not only emotional pain, but also a visceral, bodily response, a racing heart, tense muscles, and a spike in stress hormones. These mechanisms set the stage for the silent treatment to become more than a passing slight. They transform it into a lever of control, shaping behavior and emotional dependence in ways that can last long after the silence ends. Stress from the silent treatment is not just felt in the mind, it leaves a mark on the body. Within minutes of being ignored, heart rate can rise, muscles tense, and the body's alarm system shifts into overdrive. Anxiety takes hold, and for many, the mind circles endlessly, searching for answers that never come. This rumination keeps stress hormones like cortisol elevated far longer than after a typical argument. Longitudinal studies show that repeated exposure to exclusion or unpredictable silence changes the body's stress response. Researchers tracking people over weeks and months have found a flattened cortisol slope, a sign the body's natural rhythm is disrupted. Instead of peaking in the morning and falling at night, cortisol levels stay stubbornly high or do not drop as they should. This pattern is linked to sleep disruption, trouble concentrating, and a greater risk of depression. Another measurable change is in heart rate variability, known as HRV. Healthy HRV means the heart can flexibly respond to stress and relax again. But after chronic silent treatment, HRV drops. This low variability is a warning sign for emotional exhaustion and even future health problems. Meta-analyses across dozens of studies reveal that people who endure ongoing social exclusion are 27% more likely to develop depression and 34% more likely to experience anxiety disorders. These changes are not imaginary or minor. They show up in saliva samples, sleep studies, and wearable heart monitors. The body treats silence as a threat, and the damage can linger long after communication resumes. This evidence challenges the idea that the silent treatment is harmless. Instead, it calls for real recognition of its power to harm, not only emotionally, but physically as well. Emily remembers the first time her husband went silent. After a disagreement over finances, he refused to speak for nearly a month. No texts, no calls, not even a note on the kitchen counter. The divorce court later cited this pattern as emotional abuse in its final ruling, a rare but growing legal recognition of silence as a weapon. Emily says she felt like she was erased from her own home. In a different setting, Jamal found himself on the receiving end at work. His supervisor, Marta Lopez, stopped answering his emails after he questioned a safety protocol. 30 days went by without a word. Missed deadlines stacked up, and an internal human resources investigation backed by OSHA records, concluded Marta's behavior created a hostile work environment. Jamal's reaction was blunt. He says he started to doubt every move he made. Family dynamics can be just as fraught. A 12-year-old girl named Maya withdrew from school after her mother began using silence as punishment, ignoring her on the drive home and refusing to answer questions for days. Social services flagged the pattern, noting a sharp spike in Maya's anxiety and school refusal. The official report called the silence chronic emotional neglect. Online, the tactic spreads even faster. In 2023, a TikTok trend called the Strategic Ghosting Challenge encouraged users to cut off contact with romantic matches for 48 hours. The hashtag racked up over 12 million views in 2 weeks. Platform analysts reported a surge in complaints about emotional distress linked to the challenge's viral spread. Across these stories, courtrooms, offices, families, and digital feeds, the silent treatment leaves a measurable impact. Each case underscores that punitive silence is not confined to any one sphere. Its reach is wide, its effects deeply personal. Silence is rarely random. Psychologists who study the silent treatment have identified 5 primary motives that drive people to withhold communication. The first is control. Here, silence acts as a lever, because by refusing to respond, the person sets the terms of engagement, forcing others to adapt or capitulate. This motive is especially common in relationships where power is uneven, and silence becomes a tool to steer outcomes or enforce compliance. A second driver is avoidance. For some, silence is less about punishing and more about dodging discomfort. Conflict-avoidant people may retreat into silence to escape arguments or overwhelming feelings, using withdrawal as a shield. Studies show that individuals with high attachment avoidance or histories of emotional neglect are more likely to default to this pattern. Family and culture also play a role. Many learn the silent treatment as a script from childhood, modeled by parents or reinforced in communities where open confrontation is discouraged. In some cultures, silence is seen as a way to maintain harmony or express disapproval without direct conflict. But when these scripts are imported into other settings, they can become toxic, especially if one party does not share the same cultural understanding. Personality traits add another layer. Research links chronic use of punitive silence to certain personality profiles, especially those high in narcissistic, borderline, or antisocial traits. For these individuals, silence may serve as a calculated tactic to destabilize or punish. Finally, digital platforms have made strategic silence easier than ever. Ghosting and online exclusion now offer low-effort, high-impact ways to deploy silence as a power move, often without immediate social consequences. A couples therapist puts it simply: people use the silent treatment for different reasons, sometimes to hurt, sometimes out of fear, sometimes because that is what they grew up with. Understanding the motive is the first step to choosing the right response. Each of these motives filters how silence is used and felt. Recognizing them helps decode intent and shapes how best to respond. Clear language can break cycles of uncertainty. In an intimate setting, Emily faces the camera and says these words: "I notice we haven't spoken in a while. I feel hurt and would like to understand what's happening. Can we set a 15-minute time to discuss?" Her voice is steady, the words simple, direct but not blaming. In the workplace, a script might be this: "I have not received a response to my email from May 3rd. To keep the project on schedule, could we agree on a deadline for feedback?" For online silence, you could say this: "Hey, I saw you've stopped replying. If you need space, let me know. Otherwise, I'd appreciate a brief update." Each approach uses a time-boxed request and neutral tone. Experts recommend documenting interactions, dates, messages, and outcomes, especially in professional or digital spaces. Practicing these lines out loud, even once, can help reclaim agency when silence threatens to take it away. Not every instance of silence is abuse. Therapists and researchers urge a careful approach. Intent, pattern, and context matter. Silence becomes dangerous when it is used to punish, control, or isolate, especially if it is repeated, one-sided, and leaves the target feeling powerless. But in some cultures, silence is a form of respect or a communal practice, like Amish shunning. Trauma-informed clinician Dr. Lena Patel explains, "If you feel unsafe, isolated, or unable to express your needs, that is a warning sign. Trust your body's signals. For those seeking clarity, a simple checklist focused on intent, pattern, and context can help distinguish harm from healthy boundaries. Looking ahead, new AI tools are being tested that detect long gaps in digital communication and prompt gentle check-ins. While promising, these systems must balance privacy and consent, especially across cultures. The goal is safety, not surveillance, and support that is both ethical and effective. In a world where communication is currency, silence is never neutral. It shapes trust, power, and emotional safety in every relationship. Recognizing when silence becomes a weapon is the first step to reclaiming agency. Today, how we respond to it defines not just boundaries, but self-worth. Your voice matters.